South Africa is known as one of the top biodiverse countries in the world. We are a country that is well endowed when it comes to biodiversity. And one just needs to listen to visitors who often come to our country and often comment that you have a beautiful country, you have a lovely country. And I always proudly say, yes, this is the most beautiful country in the world. And they respond by nodding their heads, whether they are Chinese, Europeans, Americans, or South Americans. Because it is true, our country is the most beautiful, and there's no other country I know that is as beautiful as South Africa. And this beauty derives from the many iconic and animal species that have long been integral to our culture, to our spirituality, and to our livelihoods as Africans, and also highly valued our country is across the world. We have coexisted over many years harmoniously with our biodiversity because we recognize the importance of the interdependence and the respectful relationship between humans, people, and nature. And this is something that has been handed down to us by generations and generations of our forebears. For they knew, even without having gone to universities, that there needed to be a balance between ourselves as human beings and nature. And much of what they did then was demonstrated in how they cared for our nature and how they were active participants in the diverse biodiversity we have. Natural resource use has underpinned traditional economies as well as societies across our African continent. And our people have been harvesting biodiversity products for millennia and doing so sustainably. Today, sustainable use of biodiversity is seen as a real pillar of rural economies across our country, supporting hundreds of thousands of jobs. Sustainable biodiversity use also contributes to urban economies. For example, traditional medicine markets exist in nearly every major urban center in South Africa. You just need to go to our markets and you will find in some corner there somebody peddling traditional medicine. The trade in indigenous medicine plants is a multi-million rand industry. It's an industry that supports jobs as well as livelihoods across the value chain. As a country, we've been firm that communities must benefit in a tangible manner when plant and animal species are harvested for commercial gain. A good example of this approach is rooibos, a product that is popular not just in South Africa but around the world. 4 years ago, the first industry-wide benefits sharing agreement was launched between the South African rooibos industry and the Khoi and the San councils. Having been to the areas where the Sans and the Khans live, the Khois rather, I have been able to to see the pride and the joy that you see on their faces as they talk very proudly of this age-old plant that is now benefiting their lives in more ways than one, and how they themselves participate in not only the harvesting, but the nurturing and the caring and the replication of this plant. Now, this agreement has to date distributed a total of 28 million rand to 2 councils in recognition of the community's indigenous knowledge of the rooibos species. Another product is the aloe plant, a plant that is indigenous to Southern Africa and is harvested for pharmaceutical and cosmetic purposes. To date, approximately 46 million has been paid by permit holders directly to Aloe forex tapers. Now, Aloe forex is just one of the countless indigenous species with medicinal and other value that are being used in commercial applications. There are many others. There's also Scaletium, the marula, which I'm sure many of us know. If you have not imbibed in the marula drink, you ain't a true South African. There's also Pelargonium and Mbuchu, the shrub that has been used by the Khoi and the San for healing and traditional rituals for centuries. Approximately 29 million rand has been paid to traditional authorities in the Eastern Cape, as well as in the Northern Cape, the Northwest, in KZN and Limpopo, in recognition of indigenous knowledge associated with these species. And one should meet the people who are involved in caring for these plants, in harvesting these plants, and you can see that they are benefiting and they see this as an opportunity that is transforming their lives. We know that compensation and recognition of indigenous knowledge held by communities is not enough. We know that payment to communities for harvesting these species is also not enough. There must be tangible beneficiation in communities when indigenous plant species are harvested for commercial benefit, whether it is for medicine, cosmetic, or other purposes.